We built this boat, and for you, we broke down the steps with the time spent on each step, the materials used, the parts, where and how we got them, how much we paid for them, and how much they are worth. I got this boat for free, and it was given to me by a friend of mine. Obviously, it was in horrible condition, and it did come with an engine that was locked up and unusable that I ended up throwing away. It also came with some usable and crucial items that saved me some serious coin, including a Baystar steering cylinder with the steering hoses, used value being around $429.99, as well as this aluminum transom plate, roughly worth $100. The trailer, which as is was worth maybe $300, this JL Audio head unit worth about $127.49, and two 7.7 JL Audio speakers worth about $349.99. Our first step was to pick up the boat, get it de-rigged, remove the floor and the transom section, and then dig out all of the foam. This took roughly 8 hours. Then we ground down the transom and got that prepared for fiberglass, as well as the lip where the deck was going to go and the deck, and got everything prepared for fiberglass, which took about another 12 hours. Then the next step was fiberglassing and installing the transom, the deck piece spacers, and cleaning up the transom section, which was another 12 hours. For the materials that we used, we had some fiberglass mat that I had from previous projects worth about $42.86. Some woven 1708 fiberglass, I had that again from a previous project worth about $39.99. Some Coosa pieces from a previous project worth about $50. The transom coring I bought from my friend that does fiberglass for $200, worth about $200. Then I used about 5 gallons of resin that I paid the fiberglass friend for $150, that was worth about $277.99. The MEKP, I had that worth about $9.98, and some colloidal silica, I had that again from a previous project worth about $21.99. Then we went on to building the spacers that go under the deck and support the deck, getting the deck installed into the boat. That took about another 8 hours. Then the next thing was to fiberglass that transom section and the deck into place and get all that cleaned up, which was another 8 hours. And then installing the deck drain and foaming the boat, that was 4 hours. And grinding and leveling out the deck took about another 8 hours. And just to thank you for all your support that helps us keep bringing you these videos, we have a massive Thanksgiving sale going on right now at BornAgainBoatingShop.com. We used about 2 gallons of foam. That was $135.76. Again, I bought that from the fiberglass guy. Fairing filler 407, I had that from a previous project worth about $71.99. The Bondo, I had that from a previous project, $18.99. And then the sanding pads, I went through about $40 worth of them that I got from Home Depot. Then we got to sanding and fairing out the entire boat, including building the console piece and the light pieces that we had to custom make for the underwater lights to go in on the front of the boat. That took about another 24 hours. And then we primed the boat, which only took us about 3 hours to spray the primer. And then we had to fair the entire boat with the putty after the primer. That was about 16 hours, and then sanded the whole boat and sprayed the paint, which was about another 6 hours. The materials that we used then was 1 gallon of primer that I purchased for $100. Again, everything that I got fiberglass wise, I got from my fiberglass friend. That was worth about $166.02. Then the epoxy for the primer, I paid about $50. It was worth about $60.55. I used a half a gallon of the paint that I paid $100 for, whereas you could buy a gallon of it for $284.99. The paint converter was $50, worth about $64.44. The glazing putty tubes, I used 2 of them for about $70. They were $71.98. And then the Evercoat putty was worth about $50.52. Installing the rub rail took about 4 hours. I got that from Taco Marine. It was worth about $249.99. Building the starboard pieces where the speakers go and installing the rigging tube took about 4 hours. The PVC rigging tube was $16 from Home Depot. The brackets were $8 from Home Depot. And then the paint that I used to spray paint the PVC tubing, I got that from Home Depot for $9.98. Now, when it came to repairing the bottom of the boat, that took me about 20 hours to do. From the grinding, the sanding, and cleaning everything out, putting on the barrier coat, and then actually bottom painting the whole boat. The bottom paint, I had that from a previous project. I used about a half gallon, $150 value. The barrier coat, I had to buy that online for $45.88. Then it went on to repairing the engine and making it functional, which I spent way too much time and way too much money on this engine that I got for free than I should have. I ended up spending about 24 hours on fixing it and getting it running the way it should be.
If you're doing it, stop it, get some help.
And then hanging it and installing the drain tube and the rigging with the steering took me about another 8 hours. So the engine, again, I got it for free. I pulled it from the trash. It had no value to it. The service that I did on it, I spent about $300, got all the parts from the marina. That included oil filters, fuel filters, spark plugs, oil, gear lube, drain seals, impeller, all that stuff. The fuel pump I had to replace on it. I got that from Amazon for $36.31. This is where the real problem came into play. I'm not 100% on this, but supposedly the OEM Mercury pump that costs about $750 only pulls like 2.5, 3 amps. And the aftermarket that I bought for $36.81 pulls like 5 amps. The trouble is the ECM is what supplies the power to this. So because the aftermarket pump pulled more amps, it ended up frying the ECM that if I would have bought brand new would have cost $1,200. And so I then had to add a relay that I had from a previous project that was worth about $35. And that relay now supplies the voltage to the fuel pump, and the ECM controls the relay. Again, a free engine ain't really free. I also had to put a fuel cooler on there, $82, got that from eBay, $81.70. An IAC sensor, $166, got that from eBay for $165.56. The propeller I bought from PropTech for $100. The paint, I had that from a previous project that I painted the whole engine with. That was $10.22. The steering bracket that I needed to get to attach the steering cylinder was $33.68. I got that from the marina. The control box, I ended up paying $300 for that because I got the hookup, which had a value of about $400. I got that transom plate powder coated locally for $40. The control cables I paid $60 for. Got the hookup on those because they're worth about $100. And then the flush mount helm, I also had that from a previous project, worth about $600. The 11-inch custom steering wheel I bought from Amazon for $48.90. The fill port for the flush mount helm, I had that. It was worth about $49.99. And then I used 2 quarts of steering fluid that I had worth about $10, $5 a bottle for ATF. Now, when it came to rigging the boat and all the electronics, I spent about 28 hours putting all the electronics in, running all the wires, hooking everything up, testing everything, and getting everything the way it should be. I bought a lot of the stuff from Amazon. I had a lot of the stuff from previous projects. The spotlight, Amazon $29.15, spreader lights $25.19. The anchor light, $32.99, nav lights, $22.99, and the kicker speakers were $167.96. All of that stuff came from Amazon. Starboard piece, I had that worth about $40. The 14.2 anchor wire, I had that worth about $48.36. The amplifier was $276.17. Got that from Amazon. Bilge pump, $86.05, came from Amazon. The bilge hose, I had that worth about $15. The fuel tank I ended up ordering from Amazon for $101.20. That was a 12-gallon fuel tank. The fuel hose, I had that worth about $20. Battery box, had that $24.99. The battery switch, I also had that for $44.55. I had the battery as well, $150. The battery cables, I had those worth about $100. The GPS with transducer, I bought that from Amazon, $265. The console door, I ended up getting online for $70. I had the sealant worth about $20. Drain plug, I also had that worth about $7.99. The drain tube, I bought that for $17.99 from the marina. The trailer tie-down eyes I bought locally for $29.98. The clamshells that I used all over the boat in 3 places, those were $35.67 from Amazon. The heat shrink connectors, I had those from a previous project, worth about $30. I put a bilge fuse for the automatic float switch, got that from the marina, $9.59. Negative bus bar, $19.99, got that from the marina. And then the breaker for the amplifier was $43.37, and I bought that from Amazon. Now, when it came to getting the trailer all fixed and working, it didn't have a title with it, so I had to go through the DMV, had to repair it, get it all fixed, go through a whole process with the DMV that I'll explain in just a minute. And all that took about 16 hours to do. The parts, I got most of them from the marina. The jack was $54.35. The winch was $42. The V bow bumper roller thing, that was $11.99. The lights I bought from Amazon for $25.99. The bunk carpet, $47.98. Got that from the marina. Bunks were just 4x4 8-footers. Got from Home Depot for $20. The bunk brackets were $62.88. Got those from the marina. And then the registration title issues, where I had to show all the receipts to the DMV, give pictures of the trailer and all the repairs that I did to the DMV.
The sawdust quiets the gears and lets the engine run as sweet as a nut for a couple of miles.
Also take the trailer and get it weighed and take the certified weight slip to the DMV to get a title for the trailer. All that ended up being about $80. And then the Bully Netter lights with all the receptacle, the wire, the sockets, PVC, all that stuff, that whole assembly, got a whole video on that coming out. That ended up costing about $60 and taking about 3 hours. So yes, I spent way too much time and way too much money on this boat.